Hello, this is John Caberman with padprinters.com. I'm going to take you through the control panel on the TOSH Micro 90. First thing you do is turn the machine on with the main power switch located behind the control box. And when the machine fires up, it says please wait, loading data, and then it comes up and tells you to home by pushing the middle of the screen. So push here, the machine goes through its homing sequence, which is where the motor is finding its home or starting position. So once you're in this screen, you've got a bunch of buttons here, and I'll tell you what they all mean and what they all do. This picture right here shows a pad with an arrow pointing up and down. This button, when pushed, makes your pad move up and down. You push it once to start and once again to stop. So right now the machine is in the printing position. Push it once, it starts going up and down. Push it again, it stops. Right next to that is a picture of an ink cup sitting on a cliche with an arrow going left and right. That indicates that makes your cliche move in and out. So if I push it once, cliche starts moving in and out. Push it again, cliche stops. Now you notice that I stopped in the cliche out position as if the pad was going to go down and pick the image up. It's because I want to show you what I do in setting up a job that's brand new to me for the first time. Also in the setup mode right here, which is when the hand is lit, you've got this button over here on the right, looks like a dotted line. When you push that, that's what we call stepping motion. That enables you to use the pad up and down or cliche in and out button in slow motion so you can see exactly what's going on in your cycle. This way you can set up and make sure that you're not going to crash the pad, over compress it, interfere with nesting and all that kind of stuff. So to demonstrate now, I've got my pad over top of the image, and I could push that pad up down button and hold it until the pad goes down to where I think I've got enough compression to pick my image up. Then I go back up here and I press the enter button right down here. It actually saves that distance. Now I push the pad button to lift it back up out of the way, and I push the button next to it to move the cliche out of the way, and I can use the pad button again like this, and I can step the pad down over the part, hit the enter button, and save the distance that I want to use for printing. Now to see what I actually saved, I can use this button right here. First, we're at the end of a stroke here. We can turn this function off. No, we're not at the end of a stroke. Now we are. You can turn it off. This picture right here shows a pad with a dimensional arrow and millimeters. That's indicating how far your pad is stroking. And when I push that button and light that up, you can see the first one here is pickup. That distance that we set it to on the cliche is currently at 25 millimeters, and the transfer distance is set to 93 millimeters. That's a good starting position that I just taught in the machine, but it might not necessarily be correct when you start printing production. So if it appears your pad is not picking the image up all the way, you could come in here and say, well, I want to increase this from 25 millimeters to give it a couple more millimeters of compression to pick the whole image up. So I'd say plus 1 millimeter, plus 2 millimeters, now it's 27, enter. And then you might say, looks like the pad's over compressing on the part a little bit. You want to set your compression for pickup and transfer to the minimum amount necessary that you need to pick up and transfer the image. Let's say I want to take 3 millimeters out here, so I'd use the minus key. 92, 91, 90, enter. So now I've saved those distances. Also in the setup mode, you've got speed. So this adjusts the speed of motion in each action or each direction of travel. So doctoring is when the cliche slides out to present the image to the pad. Inking is when the cliche slides back in under the ink cup. Down to cliche is when your pad's going down to pick the image up. Up from cliche is when the cliche lifts off after picking the image up. And you have down to object, which would be printing on your part, and finally up from object or lifting off your part after printing. You can see I've got this programmed right now here to 5. On the Micro 90, 1 is the slowest speed, 10 is the fastest, so I have it programmed right now at 5 or 50% speed, which is where I like to start for most applications. I can then use the speed adjustments to dial my print consistency or quality in. If my ink's a little bit too thin, I can slow down to give the ink more time to transfer or more time to dry on the pad for a better transfer. And as my ink starts to dry or thicken up over the course of the day or it gets hotter, I could increase my stroke speed wherever I want to instead of having to go in and add thinner or something. So you can adjust these again using the plus minus buttons, from 1 being the slowest to 5 being the fastest, depending on what you want to do. You also have timers in here, which are incredibly useful if you know how to use them. First timer in here is a cycle delay, which if you are operating in fully automatic mode and the machine's cycling without you pushing the start button or the foot pedal, this would give you time to program in a delay for you to load and unload parts. All of these are in 1/100th of a second increments, and you've got a delay before printing, which is the next one, a delay before pickup, a delay on the object, which is on your part, and a delay on cliché. So we go back up here, there's a couple other ones that you probably won't use unless you have rotary tables and things. So let's go back to the cycle delay. These numbers are a loop, which means if I go from 5 seconds down below 0, it goes to 255. So that's 255 1/100ths of a second, or 2.55 seconds. Let's say I don't want any cycle delay in there, so I want this to say 0, and I have none. Right now I have a 25 unit delay before printing. That's something that instead of changing my speed back here for, let's say, down to print or down to object, I could leave my speed at 5, and if I wanted to use a little delay before printing to give the ink more time to dry on the pad for a better transfer, more complete transfer, I just programmed in right here 25 1/100ths or 1/4 of a second. You can increase with plus, decrease again with minus, save that. So delay before pickup is the next one. The only time you might use that would be if you had a really big, bold, solid area in your image and you're having difficulty picking the middle of it up. Ink always dries from the outside edges in, so if you're picking the outside of the image up out of the cliché but not the middle, one thing you might do to try to get the entire image to pick up clean is to put a little bit of a delay in there before you pick up to give the ink more time to dry. Delay on the object is useful when you're printing on textured parts because it allows the pad to come down, push the air out of the way, and stop on the surface of the part so all the air can escape through, let's say, the little canyons or little valleys in the texture before the pad transfers the ink. So even a very slight delay there, like I've got programmed in now, 1/1800th of a second. In this case I was printing on glass and I wanted the pad to come down and freeze for a second on the glass to give the ink more time to transfer efficiently to that surface before I lift it off. That's what that delay is for. This delay onto the cliché again would be a second delay you could use if you're having difficulty picking up big bold images. It might be useful to try to delay the pad on the cliché, but it's pretty rare that that actually helps much. On object 2 would be if you had a 2-color operation going, which we do not. Delay between colors if you're printing multiple colors. This is rotary table delay. All of these delays in here are really for engineering, for programming this machine to work with other accessories and things. But the only one that you would need was all the way at the end, which is test sensors angle. That gives us a number right here that you can't change. That's a diagnostic number, so if the machine ever started freaking out, we might ask you to start the machine up and go into there and tell us what that number says. So that's the only other one you would use. Again, if you want to get out, hit escape, and takes you back out of there. So the only other things we haven't talked about so far, again, here we are back in the main setup screen. This is your semi-automatic button, where you're going to be able to start each printing cycle either by pushing the start button or by using the foot pedal. This is continuous, where it's just going to continue to cycle until you stop it, either by pushing this button to stop or by pushing the manual button to stop. Menu button brings you in here to the menu. Inside menu, you've got this little guy that looks like gears. This is where you would change for the number of colors you wanted to print. And if you're using things like a part shuttle or synchronizing with a computer, or maybe programming the frequency that you're cleaning your pads at if you have an automatic pad cleaner, those are a couple of useful things that you would do in this menu. Again, I'm escaping. If I'm in menu, to get in there, you push this guy with the gears, and that's where you set. Right now we're set for one color printing. None of this other stuff matters because I don't have any of those accessories turned on. I'm not using any of that. Escape. So menu. The screwdriver and wrench here is for managing your different axes of motion. That's something that right now my axis type 1 here would be this indexer. That's a programmable indexer that moves my part, or the XY table, from here to here and back to a load position. That's turned off right now, which is why on the screen it says excluded. So these are for turning on different accessories and controlling those. It's not something that as an operator you need to be poking around with really at all. What you might use in here, again, this is in menu. It's the screwdriver and the wrench is the second one, which is program managing. If you're a setup person or an operator and you guys have saved programs in here to remember all of the stroke distances that you program for picking up and transferring on a given part, speeds in each axis of motion like we talked about, delays in any axis of motion that we showed you how to program, all of that stuff can be stored in memory. And so by pushing that, it would come in here and it would say activate program, and there's numbers here 1 through 25 or 49 depending on the version of machine you've got. And you can change those using the up and down arrows to select or activate whatever program number that you have that you want to access. What you want to be careful not to do in here, unless you are just really instructed to do so by us, is don't activate here by going all the way down to program 0 and pressing enter, because that wipes your memory. It's like wiping the hard drive on your laptop at home. It's going to lose everything inside the control, so you don't want to do that. As an operator, don't activate program 0 unless we tell you to for some particular reason. And then if you want to save a program as a new number, you toggle down here and you can save, again, increasing or decreasing to whatever number you want to save at. Hit enter and it says please wait, recipe storing. Finally, in this menu you've got languages, and this machine can be programmed to operate in English, French, Italian, Swedish, Portuguese, Spanish, German. So again, we want it to be on English. I'll hit enter, and now to get back out of here I can escape. Finally, the buttons we have not yet talked about are the function keys. So in function, or F1 would be a pad cleaner. This is where if you had a pad cleaner on your machine, you would turn it on or activate it. Right now, if you look at that number again, it says pad cleaning each 5 cycles. I have it programmed so that it would automatically clean every 5 cycles. And in the event that you do have a pad cleaner and you want to program how often it cleans, you would go into menu, get out of function and go into menu, come down here to the gears and toggle down to cleaning frequency. Right now you can see it set at 5 right here. So it would automatically clean the pads after every 5 print cycles. what I usually do when I'm operating, if I have a pad cleaner, is I program that at 0, and what that enables me to do is, right now it says programmed at 0, so if I'm printing along here and I'm in semi-automatic or automatic mode and I see a defect on my print, and I think it's because I've got cardboard dust or dirt or some kind of debris on my pad, if I'm in this mode and I've got my pad cleaner turned on, I just push this button right here and it automatically cleans my pads before the next printing cycle. So that's what that does. So we don't have a pad cleaner, I'm turning that off. F2 has no purpose on this machine. F3 is where we would turn on an indexer or a rotary table that, again, I don't have activated. F4 is where you turn on double cycle, which means double printing. If one print isn't getting you a nice, clear, crisp, opaque, robust image like you want, you could double print. As long as your nesting fixture is capable of holding the part in location, this machine will print exactly in the same spot twice, no problem. So that's where you turn on double print. These other guys in here really aren't going to be used by you. F6, for example, is where we turn on sync program to synchronize this machine with an external computer. So really, the only thing as an operator you're going to use in the F functions here would be F1 to turn a pad cleaner on or off if you have it, and or F4 to turn on double printing. So that's it. I hope that shows you the basic controls here on a one color Micro 90. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Again, this is John with padprinters.com. Thanks for watching.